It's free?
It's free.
It's free.
Did you know it's free?
No.
Yeah.
What?
It's free. It's free.
Wait, let me check it out then. Hello, my name is Vlad.
Hi, I'm Mike.
Welcome to IQ. So today we talk about the first episode of
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Chronicles.
Yes.
What is Rum Runners and what is Rum Runners about?
Yeah.
I just want to know.
Rum Runners was the sort of the informal name given to the people who were bootlegging across, not just across Lake Erie, but across the states, particularly from Canada to the United States. And that started at the end of World War I. The federal government in the United States made alcohol illegal, or they made the selling and the manufacturing of alcohol illegal. You could still drink alcohol, so that was sort of the rub. And so they made the manufacturing and the selling of alcohol illegal throughout the entire states. However, in Canada, they weren't allowed to drink it, but they could manufacture and they could sell it. So essentially, they created a perfect market back from 1918 to 1933, and what is known as Prohibition, for the kids who don't know, Prohibition. And during that time, there's a lot of bootlegging going on, and those men who were going across the lake were known as rum runners.
You said a lot of things.
Yeah, I did. A lot of words.
Let's start. What's bootlegging?
Bootlegging. Bootlegging, another informal term, just known as the illegal distribution of alcohol.
Thank you.
Yes.
So you said in the United States, they were allowed to drink alcohol,
yes,
but not sell nor produce alcohol.
Right.
So where would they get the alcohol?
Exactly. That's why it created a perfect system.
And you said in Canada,
right,
they could make alcohol, they couldn't sell it, or they could sell it.
They could sell it,
but not drink it.
Yes.
They could sell to who then?
So if you go back to the old ship manifests and stuff like that, somebody would leave Port Dover, Canada, and it's like, hey, I'm going to Mexico, I'm going to Cuba, I'm going to Puerto Rico, and their boat would take off, and they'd be back in 4 hours.
But from Port Dover to Mexico, it's not 4 hours?
No, it is not. It is certainly not 4 hours. It's not even with the fastest speedboat in the world. It is not 4 hours, yes.
Okay.
And everybody kind of knew it was going on, and everybody was sort of on the take, and everybody just looked the other way.
So now you as a filmmaker, and I want to jump into your shoes.
Mm-hmm.
What is your methodology in making this episode? Because it's a lot of history, but how do you pick the topic to be discussed in the episode? Because you talk about fishing, you talk about the mayo, you talk about Port Dover.
The only thing, it's funny, Rum Runners to me is maybe on some level almost like a regret at this point, because as we dove into the research, I found that there was so much more that I could have gotten into, and that Rum Runners probably could have been its own season, 10-episode season of Chronicles where we dissect things. But, it's like, that's not what we were trying to do. Yeah. And so I almost regret making it the first episode. But, I'm proud of the episode itself.
I learned a lot, especially I'm not from Erie.
But to your question, How do we do it? Because there was so much under the table stuff, what we really decided with, and it ends up laying out a lot of, from our research and our approach, it ended up helping us a lot of ways because it was so difficult. And what we realized at a certain point is like, we have to be able to verify things. Mm-hmm. And so it helped. Rum Runners actually serves as an important blueprint for us, at least from a research standpoint, of being like, if we can't triangulate the evidence or the account of what is being told, then we don't go with it. And that's a real shame, because some of the stories that happened during that time, which I'm almost like 99.9% sure are accurate, because we couldn't confirm it from other sources, we didn't feel comfortable running with it. So what really almost happens is, by necessity, we end up going with the stories and trying to lay out the history of that period of Erie from what we can verify.
It's tough.
It was tough, yes.
Because you had an ethical dilemma right there.
Yes. I always say that if anybody ever came to me after Chronicles and was like, okay, I want you to write a movie in Erie, what's the most interesting one? It'd be Prohibition.
Wow.
The rise of organized crime, not just in the country, but organized crime here. The immigrant families that were able to generate generational wealth because of the bootlegging and the rum running that happened across the lake.
So how do you decide who to have on an episode like this one?
We were incredibly lucky and blessed to have an author, a local historian, named David Frew, who's written about that time. And I think he's re-released the book Rum Runners, which is where the title comes from. And David, just a wealth of resource and knowledge. And so that was the starting block. And so I had this conversation with David, thought it would make a very interesting episode because it's that is the crossing point of when Erie sort of goes from just being this manufacturing town to sort of something else is going on at that point. And it's really kind of the beginning of political corruption in our city, and where some things sort of that have affected us, and some of the shadiness that's happened that people know about Erie, that's kind of the beginning of it right there. So it's a crossroads for the city. So I went to David, and David was very kind and helped us out with the episode and extended his other resources and his other friends who knew a lot about it. And so that's how we knew who to go to.
So how important is your network?
When you're doing shows like this, you pretty much just you gotta knock on the door. You gotta make a cold call, and then you gotta follow up and follow up and follow up.
Were they receptive? Did some people shy away?
What was difficult was, it wasn't that people weren't willing to talk.
Yeah.
At that point, there was no episode to show them.
Oh.
Nobody knew what Chronicles was at that point. Even as a team, we were still figuring this out.
That's true.
On some level. Yeah, and we were figuring it out. And so the reticence and the reluctance wasn't from sharing the information. It was from, I don't want my time wasted for something that is going nowhere, or they didn't know where it was going to go, or how they were going to be portrayed or portrayed on camera and stuff like that. That was the bigger obstacle, oddly, in that situation.
That's tough, because you try. I mean, in your head, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can I translate what's in my head to these people to see the value in these type of things?
Right. Yeah.
So you had some feelings. You had some people say, no.
The thing I didn't expect and anticipate when I first started the show, I thought people would be happy. I spent so much time in the beginning months, and you could say maybe it was a waste of time. I don't think it was. I spent so much time calling, having conversations, getting people to warm up to me, introducing myself. They didn't know who I was. And so I spent a lot of time going to coffee shops, having sit-down conversations, and some of those conversations didn't go anywhere, which is a real shame, because it's like, I'd like to circle back.
Where you're going to, you understand the value of the person, but the person doesn't see the value that you're trying to provide. Right. So as a filmmaker, this is tough.
This is tough. And the other thing, and Tom knew, our bold leader, Tom knew, and at first I sort of, shrugged it off, but he's right. Nobody has ever tried to do a show in the way that what we have done with Chronicles. And so there has been this interesting sort of education to the community, because I think a lot of times we show up to places and they're just expecting, it's like, oh, you're going to put a stick mic and a camera, and maybe there's going to be a light. When we show up, we're a production.
Moving forward, I want to talk about having Tommy Cowell on the show. Yeah. Because his father...
Richard Cowell. Richard Cowell. Yeah.
Sorry, Richard Cowell. His father, I think he was a bootlegger.
Yeah.
And his son came up and talked about the story.
Richard Cowell's is it's the closest that we can get to what it is, to have somebody actually sort of verbalize what that personal connection, because, Richard has gone on to live this very full life, and he is a good and decent man. But the reality is, and that generational wealth that was kind of created by his father his father then goes and starts Cowell Boating Service, which was a huge fixture in the Erie community for a long, long time. And then Richard is able to go on and use that wealth that started from the bootlegging to go on and pursue a law degree where he did a lot of good things for the city. So it's Richard, it's important to have that representation, at least of like, this is some good came out of this, and people were able to sort of break their system a little bit.
Interesting. It's very interesting to the fact that he was willing to come out and talk about it openly,
And again, it took a second to get Richard on board.
Of course, who?
To talk about that, yes.
No, I don't think people won't feel proud about that.
There was a lot of people who, my grandfather did this, or or some older people who remember their parents. and they just want to talk about it on camera. And I have to respect that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We are not here to make people feel uncomfortable.
No, you just
And that was, we're just trying to talk about things honestly.
The second one that we discovered was the Liberty boat. How excited were you when you find out that this Liberty bought an engine that's literally...
It was the most exciting day when we found out that there was a Liberty. There's 3 of them left. And to find that one is like right down the road. Yeah.
Can you tell us why the Liberty boat is important?
The Liberty boat was the engine. These were the engines that were used in the World War I planes. The engines got re-engineered, put in the boat so they could outrun the Coast Guard. They were blowing past the Coast Guard and getting away.
With booze inside.
All with booze inside.
Booze inside. So if you want to watch more about Chronicles, hey, click on the playlist right there. And of course, there's a link in the bio, or just go to wqlnchronicles.com and watch what Mike and the Chronicles team did. Hey, what is it again? It's free?
It's free.
It's free.
Did you know it's free?
No.
Yeah.
What?
It's free. It's free.
Let me check it out then. wqlnchronicles.com. Hey, make sure you double check as I am doing right now, and see you next time.